Okay, obviously we're yes. I gotta go work on the after one. I gotta stay awake session. I gotta actually be like, here it is. I'm in Chicago. What about you? Like I am across from Asia or something crazy. Across the street across from Asia. I live in Johnson County. Yes. So that's a lot of like how it goes. I do it. I don't know. That's like me. Okay, so it was yeah, I want to be a stalker. Like a safe operator.
I now call this meeting of the Student Senate to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to begin our Student Senate taking place on Thursday, April 4th, 2024, with a land acknowledgement. We recognize that Kansas State University, as the first land-grant institution, stands on the ancestral lands of the Kaw people. Our state of Kansas is home to 4 federally recognized Native nations: the Iowa Kickapoo, Prairie Band Potawatomi, and Sac and Fox. We must remember that the land serving as the foundation for this institution was and still is stolen land acquired by white settlers. We pledge our commitment to creating decolonized spaces at the university while advocating for the support and future success of Indigenous faculty, staff, and students at K-State. And with that, Speaker Pro Tem Heseltine will take it away with our first roll call.
This is the second week in a row I'm having microphone problems, so bear with me here again. Okay, Biggs.
Here.
Black.
Here.
Blood.
Here.
Rugen.
Here.
Carlgren.
Here.
Koch.
Here.
Dival Bliss.
Here.
Ediger.
Here.
George. Giefer.
Here.
Glanville.
Here.
Glasscock.
Here.
Haynes. Hoffmans. Hannah. Holmes,
Here.
Holtzmeister,
Here.
Jacobson, Carton,
Here.
Keen,
Here.
Kidd, Lee,
Here.
Lilly,
Here.
McCullough,
Here.
Moore,
Here.
Otto,
Here.
Peterson,
Here.
Palenko,
Here.
Robbie,
Here.
Rice, Richenberg,
Here.
Rizzo,
Here.
Saya,
Here.
Shivasari,
Here.
Shirky,
Here.
Srivastava,
Here.
Stewart,
Here.
Strunk,
Here.
Sushanik,
Here.
Talbert,
Here.
Vogel, Vogelmore.
Okay, with that, we will go into first open period. Do we have any first open period speakers? Justice Cameron.
Hey, y'all.
Okay, that was awkward. So, I'm not here to talk about parking. Instead, I'm here to quickly just give a brief announcement. We do it during second open period, but I don't have speaking rights, so I'm sorry that I'm doing it before Senate. There is an eclipse this Monday, if you guys did not know. So Physics Club will actually be doing an eclipse viewing outside of Cardwell on the lawn around 1 o'clock. Around this area will reach 86% totality, which is pretty cool. And I believe they're giving away, I don't know if they're still doing it tomorrow, but they're giving away free eclipse glasses at Bluemont Hall. If you do not have them and you want to look at the eclipse, you really need those. One more thing, there has been an influx of counterfeit eclipse glasses in the nation so far. So if you don't have them, if you got them but you didn't get them from a reputable source, or if you got them from Amazon, you really should try check them, because it's kind of a problem. And if you use fake glasses, you could have severe permanent eye damage or go blind. So yeah, don't look at the sun. It will be cool though if you have the proper stuff to look at said sun. Cool. That's all.
Are there any questions? Senator Koch.
How do you check these eclipse glasses before actually staring into the sun?
That's actually a really good question. So you can tell if eclipse glasses are actually real or not based upon how much light can be transmitted. The way they work is they have an immense amount of carbon within the lenses themselves that block out 90% of the light that enters them. This means that the only light that should permeate the glasses is the sun or direct reflections of the sun. So if you try on your eclipse glasses indoors, everything should be black. If you try them out outside, everything should also be dark, with the exception of the sun or anything that is a direct reflection of the sun. So that is how you can tell.
Are there any further questions? Senator Kidd.
Did you already mention in the event that someone were to potentially buy suspect glasses, what code they should look for on the glasses for authenticity?
So in some of the resources I was reading, they were saying that the authenticity codes and the the stamps of approval and all that have been faked. They've been printed and falsified. So they actually look very authentic, and they are marketed as an official glasses from the official Eclipse glasses companies, but they're actually knockoffs. And so you can look up them. Some of them might still be able to be identified by the proper serial number, but the safest way is just to test them indoors if you already have them, or get them from a reputable source.
Are there any further questions? Okay, thank you, Justice Cameron.
Thank you.
With that, we will go into the approval of the minutes. The minutes were distributed along with the agenda and legislation tracking. Is there a motion to approve? Senator Otto.
I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
The minutes will stand approved. With that, we will go into announcements. The first one is that the Senate Executive Committee applications are live, apply on the agenda. Descriptions about each position and more information can be found on the application. Applications are due on Friday, April 5th at 11:59 p.m. Contact Speaker Cuesta with any questions. The second, executive branch applications are live. Use the link in the agenda to apply. Descriptions about each position and more information can be found on the application. Applications are due Friday, April 5th at 11:59. Contact Pager Jack with any questions. 3, proxies. If you're going to be absent from a Student Senate meeting, please fill out this link, even if you aren't sure if your absence will be excused. 4, if you'll be physically absent from Student Senate but would like to attend via Zoom, please fill out the Student Senate Zoom request form. Speaker Cuesta will review requests based on the Student Senate attendance policy. Please submit requests on the agenda. 5, want to give props to someone in Student Senate? Fill out the Senate shout-out form, and Speaker Pro Tem Hesseltine will read them at the end of our meeting. And then fill out the shout-outs with the link that she emailed earlier tonight. 6, the SGA Member of the Week is Marin Wills. Marin did an excellent job planning the Sexual Assault Prevention and Awareness Day of Action event. Thank you, Marin, for your commitment to educating and organizing students. And then 7 is the upcoming events calendar, except that on Friday, the Senate exec applications are not due on the 13th. They are due on the 5th. And the quote of the week is, to improve is to change, to be perfect is to change often, from Winston Churchill. Okay, with that, we will go into approval of appointments. Does somebody have a motion to introduce? Senator Koch.
I move to consider Resolution 4.
Second.
Okay. Resolution 242504, approval of new student senator. Authors Carson Cuesta. Whereas there is currently one vacancy for the position of student senator for the College of Arts and Sciences, and whereas Vivian Griffith has the next highest vote total of eligible and willing candidates from the 2024 KSU SGA general election for the College of Arts and Sciences, be it resolved that Section 1, the following individual be approved as a student senator for the College of Arts and Sciences, Vivian Griffith. Are there any questions on that? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the resolution? Senator Glasscock.
I move to approve Resolution 4 unanimously.
Second.
Okay, if you will come down, Senator Griffith. Raise your right hand and say, "I will" at the end. I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of student senator and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association.
I do.
Okay, and then if you want to introduce yourself with your name, major, hometown, pronouns, and favorite smell.
Hello, my name is Vivian Griffith, she, her. I am a sophomore studying ecology, and my favorite smell is freshly baked bread. Oh, I'm from Lenexa.
Okay, now going into directors' reports. Do any directors have a report? Okay, I'm going to defer my director's reporting rights to Senator Kidd.
All right, thank you, Speaker. So I sent out an email earlier today that was authored by myself, Senator Wolf, and Speaker Cuesta regarding our SGA honor cords. So I know that a number of us in the room may not be eligible for them yet, but the intent, the intent is to introduce this new system of allowing you all as senators or anything adjacent to SGA, some sort of involvement with SGA, to allow you the opportunity to wear a special honor cord when it comes to commencement. So we got it approved through the year 2028. So that should cover all of us, a lot of us in this room, maybe not myself if I don't graduate in that time, who knows? But for this first initial order go around, the cost will be around like $25 per cord. And so if you would like one for commencement, or if you know friends that would want one or whatever, all the information's in the email, but just to reiterate some of it here, it's going to cost $25 this first time around. We need to make the order by no later than this next Friday. So they're due by 11:59 p.m. Central next Thursday, the 11th. And the reason why is that they'll take less than a month to produce and make for us, but I want to make sure that they're here before commencement actually takes place. We lost a little bit of ground due to spring break, and then going back and forth with a local vendor to try and find a good solution. And so I think we have a good system in place. Moving forward after this time, we've been having discussions over who should take this on. I volunteered to submit this up to the registrar's office because I do that for my work in the College of Ed. So it's really easy for me to fill out that form for us, but I'm not meant to be a permanent solution for honor cords for SGA, so I'm not compensated for it. So with that though, I'll stop and stand for questions if there are any.
Are there any questions? Okay, thank you, Senator Kidd. Oh, interparliamentarian blood.
What is the requirement to be able to wear said honor cord?
Yes, so it's not in the email, but it's in the form if you click to fill it out. So Senator Wolf's vision was that the honor cords would be for anyone that has served at least 2 years, 2+ years in SGA. We discussed earlier, and since phase 2 emerging leaders take an oath, that would count as part of an SGA experience. Being a senator, being on SGA exec, being a part of cabinet, being on the judicial branch, or being involved with the judicial branch, all of that counts as SGA adjacent stuff that could qualify for you to get one. So when you fill out the form, you will be putting in your name and email and whatnot. So like we will be vetting that stuff. So if something does not check out or something's suspect, then you won't get one, obviously. So, are there any other questions?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
With that, we will go into college caucus time, and each college caucus will elect their new caucus leader. Let's see what time it is. Okay, so for some of our new people, we know that each person is here to represent a college, and so whichever college you are elected to represent, you and your fellow senators from that college will congregate in an area somewhere outside of the union. I'll leave that up to you guys to decide. And what you will do is elect one of you to be in charge of leading the caucus. That means really whatever the elected person wants it to. In the past, people have set up meetings with their dean. They have done things as a caucus together. That's really up to the discretion of who is elected as the caucus leader. Does anybody have any questions about the process or what a caucus leader does? Okay. With that, if everyone will be back by 7:30, and email Speaker Pro Tem Heseltine, who is your new caucus leader. Thank you.
Engineering caucus, most of us are already over here. Education.
No, that's. Do I need to email you?
Engineers, we're at the seat. You don't need
I was just like, what do you mean by you? I'm glad.
I just remember that a few years ago, we had a meeting for like, we're going out to like, now, like, convert the other outside of the Senate space. That was really successful. We really did it. I'd say since then, it's really been reflected on the law. Gather up to do that. It's kind of hard to record with this one. Those meetings, I would sometimes go to Vegas, but maybe
No.
With that,
The main
are there any questions, I guess, or?
it really like obviously like someone's on the here.
I responded to her. All I said was I could be. No, I also emailed her.
Yeah, so again, it's kind of ambiguous, or it's kind of amorphous, it's kind of whatever you make it. So the things I just mentioned were just some of the details that I did. And what kind of element does not exist, but it's really whatever you want it to be. In the past, when we've done nominations and elections for caucus leader, I think longevity has been one of the factors that has contributed to that, but that does not mean anything, right? So, even call this
Yeah. Also, well, since I'm gonna be up there, I can send you a report. I mean, because I have a meeting with all the
but does that help me? So an example, right? Like, let's say you have a vision, wanting to have better relations with GSC, right? So we used to have really good relations with GSC, but then the meeting date and time changed, and so like I serve on student services team. So we used to when the meetings, I think now take place on Mondays at 5ish or whatever. I'm already in another SG-related meeting, so it's just like creating a conflict.
Just doing notes like I totally ignored during class.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay. Cool. That is good to know. That's perfect. But like that's one of the drawbacks of that. Why we may not have had strong
Do you have that?
I have things that can.
That's just an example. We have a meeting with the
What's this?
about a lot of like good advocacy things that could happen from that. Unfortunately, at the time we had the meeting, knowing that we'd be wrapping up around March last term.
Like I'm pretty sure you have screens I'm looking at.
We're not close forward, but with going into a new term, we have
No.
I don't want to start a project and then like.
I know that one.
I have
But there's a number of things that.
photography.
The other one is,
Not just related.
two vacancies
Oh, you haven't taken it?
for,
And it's not Haley,
there's
it's
like
semester.
graduate student
It's
the main
so
class is like after,
in
like,
like
if GSC doesn't get that.
It's in season, this is different.
it's like I'd rather have Bird than fucking leisure. Cause it's that
student.
Bill
You have
room
one
that goes right down the stairs.
who's a senator of Florida State, they're starting this fall.
I think it's the old veterinary second
Hey, right,
second
last
was
term.
veterinary. That's it.
So it's
Knowledge building.
part of the start going through some of those processes this semester, so I mean,
What do you have?
That's super.
Research.
But
Did they say what you're gonna be?
When is the
I told them to
research?
meet again in August.
Yeah.
I think that's what people. That's the
So
real.
no, we, you know, we got, I think that room is just one of those.
Our
that we
presentation
like,
is
together.
weird.
Okay.
But
It was.
Ethics is
like,
also due around that
that was just a bit.
time.
And again, we are ignoring that right now. Because I know that was. I love the man, but
Having caucuses.
he is one of the greatest people I think I
Like having all ties instead of like the
Pleasure of
officer having,
actually
like, officer still like managing the.
Oh, they're learning.
To some extent, but, and like making sure the caucus leaders do it, but like the
Yes.
caucus leader kind of
He was
facilitating that
And then as
process
I
a little
was
bit more.
walking back to my
So
car.
we're hoping to get
I
a
see
little bit
him
more
riding.
role, especially as we.
It's funny seeing him.
Not like, it's so nice, so we need to have the requirements for like all the constitutional.
I actually just think the man's not old person.
Or kind of trying to move away from that. Outside of GSC, the business, the ag, and engineering.
Yes.
Council really function. At least in like.
I'm so voice cracking.
Except for kind of a lot of those roles that maybe we originally, 10 years ago, had the college council do are kind of starting to look people have to work and towards down the work.
Oh, we were supposed to have a discussion yesterday, and
So, the fun part, are there any nominations?
our discussion was for 5 minutes, and then he gave a presentation.
Like, and then you're all trying to say like.
I was playing New York Times.
Any other nominations? Well, just make this official.
And then-
We're all in favor of appointing Sarah for the upcoming term, or for the current term. Please say
Yeah.
It's weird reading worksheets. I just started writing yesterday.
But no, like really, like. I mean, I got like my program in education. Fire. Okay, but then.
I got my.
It's really your
I'm industrial.
Yeah.
So I said my like.
I know that's part of the Martha.
So.
And then the lady with beautiful posture.
Where's Brady? Not Brady.
So.
Wait, huh?
Good question. This
If you have no
so originally I
and then
we need some, but
we
Why are we doing your
I don't know.
my Jim broke copy? Because it's like your computers are gonna work. It's worse. Those give me the
works.
valid. Those copy for real.
Most what doesn't unless I had a lot of
Yeah. Or like I'd be up all night like this, like giving me like. I'm just like so mean to calculator. Where I'm like getting her, because I was like really like all last year. Yeah.
I was thinking that if I would switch.
And I was like, I need something quick to make that doesn't have enough with like slow
My original.
I'm like, I don't need that. I don't want to so tight nose. You know.
So later, the day after like stuff.
Awkward culture. No, you do. You guys said, I know. Wait, so you're just talking about this because you're
But then
I always like grab it. Like there's a couple yeah, so she's I have a friend who's in Morocco and she's
you're in your car.
next time I'm gonna be like, okay, it's like probably I'm like, she's still. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Even like in the past, very good friend.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't care.
Next class.
Well, when you raise your placard,
Yeah, I'm good. Sorry.
yeah.
Okay, we can put like thing on campus and I'm gonna figure out.
Okay, well, no, that's good. Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
And then when it like,
Like, I've been very close with the GSC team. So like so I need like right, because but there's nothing you can like that's my but I guess if I'm in that car, why
and she gets to win $20 or a guarantee.
Is it worth trying for getting able to do it? Absolutely. Is it funnier though? And I get on you just like buy like a system like $500 and you like stick my email where it's
I was writing an email to you, so it's too far. Okay, sorry.
I'll now call the meeting back to order, and if Speaker Pro Tem Heseltine will give us the results.
Okay, so for HHS, we have Carly Saya. For Arts and Sciences, we have Max Black. For Business, we have Gavin Strunk. For Agriculture, we have Patrick Biggs. For APD, we have Brandon Kermer. For the Graduate College, we have Marcus Kidd. For the education, we have Ben Richenberg. For engineering, we have Anish Shrivastava. And then representing her caucus of one, we have Carissa Jonak in the College of Veterinary Medicine.
Okay, congratulations, everyone. If we will now go into introduction of legislation. Does somebody have a motion to introduce?
I move to introduce Bill 242501.
Second.
Okay. If the author will please come forward to read the bill.
Okay, so hello everyone. This is Bill 242501, amendments to the KSU SGA bylaws to create the Communications Agency. Authors, myself, Riley Coy, and then sponsors, Brayton Brugan, Anna Koch, Adelaide Easter, Sophia Glanville, Vivian Griffith, Brady Kappelman, Andrew Lee, Eric Moore, Jack O'Malley, Paige Vogelmore, and Katie Zacko. Whereas Kansas State University Student Governing Association, KSU SGA, should continue to update its governing documents. Whereas Bill 232472 introduced the new this is not right, but introduced the new roles as the communications director. Whereas communications for a large organization includes many different mediums for communication. Whereas the amount of work required to update all of our communications for one person is a large time commitment. Whereas KSU SGA should continue to find new ways to include more students in our organization. Whereas agencies are designed to act as an organization to focus on a specific issue. And whereas the communications agency shall be added as an extension of the executive branch and chaired by the communications director. Be it enacted that Section 1, Article 3 of the KSU SGA bylaws shall be amended as follows. Section 7, the communications agency. A, the charge of the communications agency is to create consistent messaging from KSU SGA to better inform the student body. In addition to information, the agency shall also focus efforts on recruitment, elections, and other messaging deemed necessary by the chair and other SGA officers. B, the communications agency shall create and upkeep a marketing and branding strategy that will be used in all communication efforts, including but not limited to digital and physical media. This marketing strategy is to be communicated with the rest of the Student Governing Association and will not contradict that of the Kansas State University Brand Guide. C, the communications agency shall select agents to serve in roles deemed necessary by the chair to fulfill specific aspects of KSU SGA's marketing strategy. This includes, but is not limited to, social media, the Kansas State University website, and physical signage. The communications agency shall be composed of full voting members of the student body at large, the recruitment and selection of which will fall to the chair. The chair shall create an application process to be distributed to the student body at large and evaluated in the spring semester before being selected to serve on the student body president's cabinet. The selection of the communications agent shall be fair and equitable. F, the duties of the chair shall be as follows. 1, call monthly meetings of the communications agency and deemed as necessary. 2, to provide adequate training and education to the agents related to SGA marketing and branding strategy. 3, draft the agenda for all meetings. 4, execute disciplinary action for the dismissal of agents when warranted. 5, maintain overall presence of KSU SGA communications. 6, oversee all activities by agents to assure consistent communication and confirm progress is being made by all agents. 7, periodically give updates on the activities of the communications agency to the KSU SGA executive, legislative, and judicial branches. 8, other duties as needed. And then G, a quorum of the agency shall be half of the sitting members plus 1, and then the chair shall only vote in the case of the tie. Section 3, this legislation shall take effect upon passage of the Student Senate by the Student Senate and signature of the student body president.
Are there any questions for the author? Senator Shirkey.
Has this legislation or similar legislation like it come before the Senate before?
Yes, so there were these two bills came before Student Senate last semester, and then it was postponed indefinitely by the Senate Executive Committee.
Senator Griffith.
On line 67, section 3 should see a section 2.
Yeah, that's fine. If we need to change it.
Can you state the correction again, Senator Griffith?
Line 67, it says section 3, that's section 2.
Senator Glasscock.
Yeah, could you talk to some of the difficulties that you had as communications director and how an agency might work to resolve those problems?
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, I was the communications director last term. And one of the struggles is one, the recruitment for the communications director, because communications is such a broad term. A lot falls under it. So that can be taken as photography, videography, social media, any PR. So that's like press releases, marketing falls under that. There's a lot of different things that fall under communications that when you look at the position that are implied. So either when you're getting into the position and you've already been elected, you're figuring out that you have to do all these things. So last year, it was a struggle to get all of these things done, especially because I was last fall in 18 credit hours. I had to carry a part-time job because I'm also an uncompensated position, which is something for another time. And so having different people, so like I'm just going to say me for the sake of explaining this. So if I was still the communications director, where at the beginning of last term we were trying to do senator headshots, handle social media, Brady so graciously helped me update the website last term because that was something I didn't have time to do. Having a communications agency that would help where I could appoint somebody to help with senator headshots, so we could have that across all branches of SGA and everybody can have consistent headshots to use even outside of SGA, like on LinkedIn and different things. I could appoint somebody that's specifically for PR that could write press releases, and then I could also really appoint anybody for anything that I would need. So like for me, my like specialty when it comes to communications, I really enjoy social media work. So that's really what I focused on, but really to make communication efforts successful among all of SGA, you need the social media, you need the website, you need the consistency in photos and different things like that. So it would just allow for multiple people to work on different things so we can have more coverage in our communications.
Granted.
And has there been anyone who has expressed interest in joining a potential agency or kind of that first set of people working to spearhead that?
So a communications agency hasn't been done like this as far as I know of in KSU SGA. So this would be a new concept, but I do not see issues in recruiting for a communications agency just because communications is so broad. And for those of you who aren't like in a communications or a marketing field, a portfolio is very important when you're trying to get hired for a job. And so this could be a portfolio builder where if someone's looking at theirs and they are like, I want to strengthen my website skills, they could apply for this position and so on and so forth with other different areas that this could cover.
Senator Griffith.
On line 46, section D, it says the communications agency shall be composed of full voting members. Is that supposed to be a number?
I don't think so, no.
Senator Shirkey.
Could you opine on why the Senate Exec Committee chose to postpone this legislation last year? Of course, I wasn't on Exec Committee, so I don't know their reasons. Would you say why this was postponed indefinitely and what changes have been made to make it more palatable for this new Senate?
Yeah, so last term there were concerns voiced that the legislative and judicial branches would lose power in the grand scheme of this, which really wouldn't happen. The next bill that'll be introduced, you'll see a little bit more of this. There were people that were more against the next bill versus this bill. So overall, the feelings from Senate Exec was that the communications agency was a good idea. It's just that there were some debates in the positive and negative on what type of support needed to happen upwards of the communications director and where it should be housed.
Senator Shirkey.
So then, has this bill changed from the one that was failed by Exec last time?
Not this one, because this one wasn't really the one in question. It was really stopped because they're both very closely correlated is what happened.
Are there any further questions for the author? Okay. Senator Suchanek.
Can you list some pros as to moving our independent position into just the executive branch? Just pros.
So I
That
would
question is out of order.
Are there any further questions? Okay, thank you, Riley. Moving on to Bill 242502, is there a motion to consider? Senator Koch.
I move to consider Bill 2.
Second.
Okay, if the author will please come forward.
Okay, hello everyone. So, Bill 242502, amendments to the KSU SGA bylaws regarding the communications director. Authors myself, sponsors Brayton Brugan, Anna Koch, Adelaide Easter, Sophia Glanville, Brady Kappelman, Andrew Lee, Eric Moore, Jack O'Malley, Paige Vogelmore, and Katie Zacco. Whereas the Kansas State University Student Governing Association, KSU SGA, should continue to update its governing documents. Whereas currently there are 2 KSU Student Governing Association positions who focus on communications for our organization. Whereas it is important that large organizations have consistent messaging throughout all 3 branches to better serve and inform the student body. Whereas the executive branch of SGA serves as an external branch for our organization, and whereas streamlining our communications is needed to better inform students and grow our awareness on campus. Be it enacted that, and then this is like the amendment, so I'm going to walk through that. So in section 1, really it strikes out the public relations director that is on cabinet right now and replaces it with the communications director. And then it changes that job description a little bit. So instead of the PR director focusing on the executive branch, it strikes that out. So the communications director focuses on all of KSU SGA. And then it strikes out maintaining social media presence of the executive branch because they'd be covering all of SGA. And then it changes the numbering. So it would facilitate and coordinate all marketing and communications efforts of KSU SGA. And then it adds on to line, or like the third thing on this, which changes it to respond to requests of official statements or public relations material from external sources and SGA officers. And then it adds 4, work with elections committee to publicize application deadlines, voting periods, and results for KSU SGA elections. And it adds 5, coordinate and serve as the chair of the communications agency. And then in section 2C, it strikes out the SGA communications director from independent positions. And then C, that says the non-voting ex officio members shall be the student body president, student body vice president, KSU SGA attorney general, KSU SGA deputy attorney general, the student body president's chief of staff, and then adds the communications director there. And then jumping to section section 3. The change there is just striking the communications director once again from the Senate Executive Committee's members. And then section 4, it completely strikes out the communications director. And then this legislation shall take effect upon passage by the Student Senate and signature of the student body president.
Senator Koch.
On line 51, can we change that C to D? Because there are currently 2 C's there.
Senator Glanville.
On line 111, can we change that from section 3 to section 5?
Senator Griffith.
In section 3, you remove the communications director from the DEIB committee. How can you do that?
Brady.
They hadn't been, I don't think it had been something that had been happening in the past. And they would already be sitting on Senate Executive Committee where the DEIB chair also sits.
Senator Glanville, Senator Griffith.
If that's the case, then how come you are also removing them from Senate Exec?
They won't be removed from Senate Exec. They'll just be an ex officio member on Senate Exec, so they won't have voting rights.
Senator Shirkey.
Why are we taking away the voting rights in this position?
because they'll sit on cabinet. And that was something that Brady and I came to so originally when this legislation was written, that Brady and I looked at the communications director in this bill wouldn't have served on Senate exec, but Brady and I also saw the merit of making sure that the communications director still sat on exec, but as an ex officio member, because they would technically be a member of cabinet, just because there are a lot of good conversations that happen in Senate exec that does somewhat impact our communications.
Senator Lilly.
So for clarification, this effectively just moves them from a Senate committee chair to a cabinet position.
They aren't a committee chair, but it moves them from the Senate Executive Committee to the executive branch's cabinet.
Follow-up?
Granted.
Are we not talking about the DEIB chair?
No, we're not. We're talking about communications director.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense.
Senator Glasscock.
When you were public relations director, which SGA leaders did you coordinate with the most to work with within your job?
Yeah, so when I was the communications director for SGA, I would say that it was an equal balance of all three, but I mostly turned to the executive branch because there was a lot of collaboration with the PR director and I, which led to a lot of issues between Taylor and I and overlap in our positions. So we would kind of look at each other with our hands like this, being like, we don't know who's supposed to handle this, because she was focused on the executive branch, but also the KSU SGA social medias and stuff. And as the overall communications director, I was also supposed to focus on all three. So that was kind of a struggle that you can see that we tried to take care of in this. And then also just support-wise, the executive branch makes sense. Jake Brown and I would sometimes have conversations, that's the chief of staff from last year, would have conversations about how to perform outreach for different cabinet members and their initiatives more than what I really did for the legislative and judicial branches last year.
Senator Shirkey.
So with the expanded responsibilities of this new position, were the legislation to pass, you'd be responsible for communications for all three branches. Why then, just to be clear, is this like under the cabinet of the exec branch as opposed to say like making it independent?
So it is currently an independent position. Part of what plays into moving it into the executive branch is that if we were to have a communications agency, really the support for the communications director stops right there. And also just from experience, having three bosses that want three different things doesn't work. It's not effective. Where if it was sitting on the executive branch that does focus more on outreach, that would help. But of course, the communications director would still handle communications and represent all of KSU SGA. So it's not really changing what the communications director does, it's just changing how it happens.
Senator Black.
What are some ways that moving this to the executive committee, the executive branch can help the judicial and the legislative branch?
Time for questions has expired.
Senator Griffith.
I move to extend the speaker's time by 5 minutes.
Second.
Is there an objection? The speaker's time is extended.
Can you restate your question, please? Sorry.
Yeah, so what are some ways that moving this to the executive branch can also benefit the other branches?
Yeah, so I think for one, the executive branch's goal is that they have more of the outreach with the student body, which is what our communications does. Very little of what I do includes communications within SGA. It's really with the student body, making sure the student body is informed of things the SGA is doing, trying to get them to come to our meetings. Recruitment is a major thing, which is more of an outward facing thing. So that's a lot of what exec does. Especially with cabinet, they have different initiatives that they take on depending on the position that they are trying to do out with the students. So that would definitely help with my position. And then the other thing is that the other way that it would help is when we're looking at this communications agency, referring to the last bill too, because they're very intertwined in the way that these are written. the communications director needs support past them going up, especially for that committee, not just the communications director being the support and that's where it's ending. So it would also help the other two branches, because from what I got from the Attorney General, we were talking in Senate Exec last semester, she didn't really care because outreach isn't really the judicial branch's thing. Like, they do a lot more, you know, the hearings and different things, but it's not like they have students coming to them for a whole lot like what it's typically the executive branch that students are collaborating with a lot more.
Are there any further questions? Okay, thank you. Senator Lee.
I move to Special Order Bill 1 and 2 into final action.
Second. Objection.
Okay, for some of the new people in the room, I wanted to briefly explain what the motion to special order is. So normally in Senate, we have a 2-week process, that being a bill is introduced, like both of these just were, and then they are referred to a committee, and then the committee will meet and make a recommendation to Senate. The bill will come back to Senate, and Senate would vote on it. So that takes 2 weeks between the time it's introduced on one Thursday, the committee meeting and making a recommendation, and then the second Thursday when we as Senate vote on it. So the motion to special order means that instead of giving it the 2-week process and sending it to committee, that it will be voted on tonight. And that is probably largely because the communications director will be doing interviews for those on Sunday. So it would be helpful to know what job they are going to be doing. So anyway, does anybody have any questions on what the motion to special order means or does? Great. With that, it also requires a 2/3 majority of people in the room to pass. So yes, Senator Griffith.
It is a debatable motion, right?
It is. So does anybody have discussion or debate on the motion? The author of the motion has first rights to debate if they want to.
Hello. I think like the speaker said earlier, that there is a bit of a time crunch here when it comes to this bill, with interviews being this Sunday, and so by passing this bill, these two bills, and allowing the applicants to understand the full duties of the role, will better serve them in the future and allow us to hit the ground running with our communications going forward. So, yeah.
Seeing as that was debate in positive on the motion to special order, is there any debate in the negative? Senator Griffith.
Regarding the motion to special order, I believe that this bill definitely needs the 2-week process, or even a 3 or 4-week process, because I believe that there are significant issues with it that I don't believe it's a horrible piece of legislation, but I believe it's one that has some problems that should do some time in committee to hammer them out. So I think that this should spend time in committees, especially in Senate Exec. ECWA was sent previously with a new Senate Exec to make new decisions regarding this bill. As such, I don't believe that special order should happen, so I urge you to vote against it.
Okay, seeing as that was debate in the negative on the motion to special order, so debate in the positive. President Volgamore.
Hey guys, I don't have a whole lot more to add than what Carson and Andrew already said, but we are, like we've already said, we're interviewing candidates for both the executive branch cabinet and independent positions on Sunday, and we need to know what we're interviewing for. It's not fair to the applicants to not know what positions are even on the table, so we really need to vote on this and get an answer going into interviews this weekend. So please vote yes for, special order. Thank you.
Seeing as that was a debate in the positive, is there a debate in the negative? Senator Shirkey.
The argument here is very simple. In the previous term, this bill died in committee. They're special ordering it now so that they can avoid committees entirely. I don't think that's right, so I urge you to go against the special order.
Okay, that was debate in the negative. Senator Suchanek.
Question of privilege. When there's a deadline, do you have to appoint a communications director?
Excellent question. I believe it is by the end of the term. Or not, what am I saying? By the end of the semester. Not necessarily this weekend, although scheduled applications, people have already applied, and we have interviews scheduled for this weekend. Does that answer your question? Great. Is there any speeches in the positive? Senator Divalbus.
I don't have very much to say. My opinion is, unless someone can come up here and outline a specific issue with the bill, I understand the time crunch and the necessity to get this passed today. So I have not heard a specific problem with the bill yet, aside from the principle of avoiding committee, I would say.
Okay, seeing as that was a speech in the positive, is there a speech in the negative? Senator Blood.
So, first thing, right? I'd like to point out the number of edits we had to make on the floor to this bill, and I actually have a number of others. There's even a reference to a former bill that didn't pass because it was postponed indefinitely within this bill, so it didn't outline any new positions for the communications director. And so I think there's a lot of thought that is missing right now. We have a 2-week process for a reason. This is a pretty big change to operations, and it was controversial previously. I think it still is a little bit controversial now given the debate, and so there's no need to rush when these things happen. As we've previously mentioned, there's no deadline to appoint a communications director, and just because we're interviewing this week, we should not be forced, we should not feel rushed into making rash decisions just because of the planning and predetermined decisions of people in leadership across different branches, right? They could have introduced this bill first day when we were electing the speaker, and we would have had more weeks to discuss, more weeks to think about and discuss this. In fact, most of these bills look the exact same to the bills that were introduced last year or last term without any real marked changes or advances at all. And so there's really no reason why they shouldn't have been introduced on day one, other than potential poor planning and forethought to kind of force us into this position to approve it now because we're interviewing this weekend. And I just think that's wrong. I think that's unfair to all of us here. And so for that, I think you should vote no on the motion to special order these bills. Let's wait, let's discuss in committee, let's discuss amongst ourselves on really what is the best way for all 3 branches to communicate and organize those communications. And once we have a clear answer on that, we should then bring these bills out and actually vote on them then, instead of rushing into a decision today.
Okay, seeing as that was a speech in the negative, is there a speech in the positive? Senator Koch.
Question of privilege. Which committee would this likely be sent to if it wasn't special ordered and it was referred to a committee?
I would refer it to the Senate Executive Committee because that is the first committee that will meet. Is there any speeches in the positive? Senator Zago.
I think, as we have discussed many times before, we can let the people decide for themselves. If we special order it tonight, we can discuss it and vote on it tonight, and that's your feedback that you need. If people like the bill, if people don't like the bill, I think we need to let it kind of have its discussion tonight, because it is two important bills. And if people hate it, like, that's your right to vote no to the actual bill, but I think we should give it a chance to have some debate and discussion tonight.
Okay, seeing as that was a speech in the positive, is there a speech in the negative on the amendment? Not on the amendment, on the motion. Okay, with that, we will go into a hand vote on the motion to special order both bills 1 and 2. That does require 2/3 of people in the chamber. So if you are interested in special ordering bills 1 and 2, please raise your placards now. Proxies raise 2. Okay, and the motion to special order passes.
I call for the division of the assembly.
Is there 15 hands to call for division? There is not. Okay, so anyway, we are going into final action on bills 1 and 2. What that means is that we will go into debate on the substance of the bill and whether or not this chamber should pass it. So with Bill 1, if the author would please come forward. Have any changes been made?
No, there has not been.
You have first rights to debate.
Okay, so really what the communications director or the communications agency does is it breaks up the responsibilities of the communications director so we can be more effective, which can in turn impact our marketing and recruitment, which is something we've been talking about for a couple of years now. Ever since COVID, we've been dealing with a recruitment issue, and this could help because the fact of the matter is when someone's looking to join an organization, they typically look at social media and the websites first. And this would allow for multiple people to focus on different things that are their strong suits, and it doesn't just fall all on one person. So I urge you to vote yes on this bill, especially if you want people to continue joining our organization and make it easy for the student body to know what's going on. So we're as transparent as possible.
Okay, seeing as that was debate in the positive, I'm seeking speeches in the negative. Senator Tolbert.
Mr. Speaker, I have an amendment.
Okay, if you'll come forward and present the amendment.
I can email it.
Should be from me.
Don't pay attention to the top. Next time I'll be like Katie Porter and bring out a giant print. Oh, there it is. Okay, awesome. So what my amendment would do is I think I have to read it first. Oh, God. Okay. So this would create H, which is the Communications Agency Media Advisory Board. Big name. Shall consist of the communications director, one appointed member of the student senate by the speaker of the student senate, and one appointed member of the judicial branch by the attorney general. The board's roles and duties shall consist only of, on request of a majority of the board or KSU SGA leadership, it shall meet. 2, advise the communications agency and communications director on media and communication related issues if they arise, and veto a decision of the communications agency and or the communications director by a majority of the board.
Are there any questions on the amendment? Senator Sharkey.
Why?
That question's out of order.
Senator Sharkey.
What is the purpose of creating the media advisory board in addition to the communication agency?
Well, when I can get to my debate, you'll find out. But to make it not debate-like, the idea is to create a advisory board that could help solve some of the issues of an executive overreach is what I think a lot of people are fearful of, but I think this solves that issue.
Senator Griffith.
Currently it's formatted as an attachment to the section. Do you think it would be better served as like a section, as like section 8 of
Yeah.
the opportunity amendment?
We talked about that. I mean, I'm not opposed to it. We also just talked about how this would be part of the agency, not a separate entity of the agency, but I'd be fine with that being a friendly amendment.
Are there any further questions on the amendment? Senator Griffith.
Well, I propose a friendly amendment to take section H and turn it into section 8 of the section that's being amended in the bill.
Does the author accept?
I accept.
Does the interim parliamentarian have comments?
Yeah, I object to the friendly amendments.
Okay, well, that's fine with me. Any other questions?
Okay, thank you. Is there a second on the amendment?
Seconded.
Okay. We will now go into voting on whether or not the amendment should be
No objection, you don't need
Friendly amendment. That's all I'm objecting to.
You're objecting on the friendly amendment?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so what we're actually going to do is vote on whether or not Senator Griffith's friendly amendment should be added to the amendment. Great. We'll do that by a hand vote. People who are in favor of adding the friendly amendment to the amendment, please raise your placards now and proxies raised too.
Maybe do its own section.
I got 2.
The amendment will be added. Okay, now that the amendment has been amended, we are going to go into debate on whether or not the amendment should be added to the bill. So the author of the amendment has first rights to debate the amendment.
Hot dog. Okay, so I think that this really solves the issue of the idea that this is a overreach by the executive branch. I've had the privilege to be a committee chair in the Senate side, been a member of judicial on a board, and have now been in cabinet. So I've been around in the different branches when it comes to communications. I handled a lot of communications last term for Caleb and Jess as their external affairs director. But what I definitely get the idea of, hey, it's a little scary to put our entire communications inside of one branch. But at the same time, having been in all the different branches, I realize that the executive branch's entire purpose is to be an external voice for student government a lot of the times, and also it's a place where a lot of things get streamlined. But what this amendment would do is create, in such a case where the communications director or agency does something crazy, would make us have a safe clause to where we could have this board meet whenever, and for whatever reason, come together and veto any decision. The board also, in my opinion, where it says advise the communications agency and communications director on media and communication related issues if they arise. I also think of that as an idea of like, typically a lot of organizations and governmental bodies will have an emergency like committee of sorts in case of something crazy popping up. It's not been something that's been an issue for the last few years, but before I got here, there's been a lot of crazy things that happened in SGA, and that it would have been nice to probably have a group that was specifically designated for like, crisis-related issues that would come to a media kind of thing. So that's also what they would do. They would advise the communications agency in terms if we ever have a crisis communications situation. But I think this solves the issue because we're putting into the branch that I think will be able to streamline the position like it's never had before. But at the same time, it creates us a little bit of a clause in case there is something crazy that the communications director agency would do, which I've never seen in my time here at K-State. So, but I know there's people who have concerns, and I think this solves that.
Okay, seeing as that was debate in the positive on the amendment, is there debate on the negative of the amendment?
Question of personal privilege, can this be forwarded out to the listserv so I can read it? Or does it have to stay on the board?
Bentley, if you want to do that.
Okay.
Does anyone want it? Does anyone want it sent, or is it just? I'm good.
Never mind,
Just send it. Okay. Does anybody have any further debate on the amendment at all? Senator Griffith.
That's a positive debate.
Okay.
Now, if you read the bill and the amended version, you'll see that I am a name that is a sponsor of the bill because I like the communications agency. I think it does a good job, but I also do agree that there can be genuine concerns over having too much executive oversight and not enough of the other two branches, and I think this strikes the perfect balance between them, so I urge you to vote in favor of the amendment and then in favor of the bill as amended.
Okay, seeing as that was debate in the positive, is there debate in the negative on the amendment? And is there any debate at all? Great. We will now go into a hand vote on whether or not the we'll now go into a hand vote on whether or not the amendment should be added to the bill. All those in favor of adding the amendment to the bill, please raise your placards now. Proxies raised too. Okay, and the amendment will be added. Now we will go back into debate on the bill as amended. There's already been one speech in the positive on the bill, so I'm now looking for a speech in the negative on the bill. Does anybody have a speech? Senator Suchanek.
When this pretty much identical bill was brought to the Senate Exec Committee last semester, we were all initially really excited about it. It is clear to pretty much everyone who's been in this organization for more than a year that there are issues with the way that we handle communication. That's undeniable. But the committee felt that this just was not an apt solution to fixing the problems that we have. And I think the most glaring issue in the non-starter that was identified by, I think, all the chairs except for one, was that it is moving something from an independent position and putting it into cabinet. And then the amendment that we've just created adds just another layer of bureaucracy, which I think is unnecessary if you just leave this and allow it to exist independently as it has been. I know the argument was made that it is too hard to have 3 different bosses with your 3 branch heads. I would say that moving it into cabinet, you're still going to have to work with those 3 branch heads to do the work of this organization and advocating and communicating on behalf of all 3 branches. But then on top of that, you're also going to have to communicate with your 3 leaders that you have within the executive branch itself. You're also beholden to the president, vice president, and chief of staff as well. You're adding more layers of people that you have to report to and more layers of things that you have to manage that would be easily eliminated by leaving this independent. So at the time, we moved to suspend this bill indefinitely with the hopes that it would come back the next term. There were conversations had, bring it back next term, put it back in the oven, let it cook, and then we would love to see an updated, better version of this bill. But we have the exact same identical bill, which I think shows a lack of willingness to compromise, which doesn't really bode more confidence in the ability to put this into cabinet and know that all branches will be represented and advocated for equally. Thank you.
Okay, seeing that was debate in the negative on the bill, is there a debate in the positive? Senator Talbert.
Request for information. Which bill are we debating currently? Speaker Cuesta.
We are currently debating Bill 1.
Yeah, I know that the previous speaker brought up a concern of creating more layers in bureaucracy. I don't think that is really going to be an issue. The amendment specifically says that that advisory board would only meet if it was needed to meet. I've been in SGA for 3 years, going on 4, and I've never seen an issue where the communications director has done something to where the other branches had to like step in and say something about it. And so I don't see that being an issue from this point on either. I think what the beauty of this is that it's mirroring not only kind of what we do with the Legislative Advocates Program, where you have a cabinet member who oversees a organization or a committee that is designated to a specific cause. So it's nothing foreign to our organization. Another thing that I really like about this is I think it also puts us on the same level as a lot of our peer institutions in the Big 12. There's 4 schools in the Big 12 that all have a communications agency or a committee. All the agencies are housed inside of the executive branches at their respective institutions. And I think that from the conversations I've had, like with West Virginia University Student Governing Association, they have a very similar system to this. And it just works so much better when you have that one boss. Don't get me wrong, they're going to have to do social media for all the different branch heads, but at the end of the day, it is a lot easier to have one specific person you can go to for related issues that could pop up, and going to the president, vice president, chief of staff, which are the ones who serve on the most external committees and are typically the external face of our organization. I think they are the best people to be reporting to on more of a consistent, regular basis. In the past, really, the only times we have any kind of legislative updates on social media, it's maybe the few times a year we do some kind of fun thing. Like I know we did breast cancer awareness last term, and we did a picture. And then, I mean, if we pass some cool legislation, but the reality is the majority of our social media is stuff that's happening in the executive branch, or if any of the branches have, vacancies that they're wanting to fill. I don't see a reason to be against the idea of trying to streamline things and make things more efficient. And once again, I don't think this is creating any more layers. It's literally just taking one position and putting it into a place where I think they can have a lot more control and also have their position streamlined.
Okay, seeing as that was debate in the positive, is there a debate in the negative? Senator Griffith.
Point of information, how many votes is required to pass an amendment to the bylaws?
So an amendment to the bylaws requires 2/3 of selected and qualified, which is 36 votes. Okay. Is there any debate in the negative? Senator Strzok.
Hey guys, just a few things that I saw that I just wanted to bring up and think about were, I think we already struggle with like recruitment and things, so I was kind of confused on how we're going to bring people into the communications agency. That was just a personal concern of mine. And then another one that I had would be that, we're adding like this committee council-like process to the communications director, and I'm just really not sure how that would affect the day-to-day operations of the communications agency. I feel like that would just kind of, bog things down a little bit. I believe that, just having, one communications director would definitely make things easier to make decisions quickly. And I think that, most of the decisions made by the communications director like must be made quickly. So that's all I've got.
Seeing as that was debate in the negative, I'm looking for speeches in the positive. Senator Shirley.
I have a question of privilege. I'd like to be clear exactly what the logical consequences are if this amendment fails right now. What is will there be one communications director, or will there be two communications positions in SGA?
There,
This fails right now.
if the bill fails, the communications agency will not be created, and the status quo will remain.
But I want to make sure I know what the status quo is. Is it one or is it two?
The status quo is one communications director.
Okay.
But there's two communication positions, right?
There is a PR director in cabinet, but there's one independent communications director.
Thank you.
Senator Black, is this debate in the positive?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so the reason why I wanted to come and speak about this bill is essentially what it does is it puts an emphasis on communications. And something that I'm really, yeah, I really think that it's a great way to extend our reach. The previous speaker just spoke about how we've been having issues with recruitment, but I don't think this will really be a problem because while there's the general student body probably knows that we exist, they're not really going to know much about us unless they go out searching for things, unless they follow us on Instagram, unless they're visiting our website. I'm not saying that this is going to, you know, essentially like say, hey, this is SGA to everybody, but what I think this does is it's going to have more people working on creating effective communications for things. And the more information we put out there, the more information there is to be viewed by students. And essentially that's just going to make everything we do better. We're gonna have more people knowing about SGA, more people being passionate because they can follow it. They don't have to start digging and reading through meeting minutes and things like that. So I urge you to vote yes for this bill, because I think that it can only help SGA and in our goal of supporting students here at K-State.
Okay, seeing as that was debate in the positive, is there debate in the negative? Senator Carton.
First off, I want to say all of this is fantastic, great. I love all the speeches that has been going on tonight, positive, negative. It has really opened eyes. The one thing that I want to bring up on behalf of me and some other of my colleagues is how quickly this is trying to get through. While we do understand that this is trying to get done before the position is filled on Sunday or Monday, this was something that was started last term. Most of us are new. We still haven't learned a lot around what goes on with communications, what goes on with each of the three branches of SGA. I'm not saying I don't want to see this pass. I just want it to go through with a fine-tooth comb, making sure that there are proper stops, as what one of the previous speakers had mentioned with an amendment. It's just the rushing of it all, in all honesty. I want to see this pass. I really, really do. But right now, I don't think it's ready.
Seeing as that was debate in the negative, is there debate in the positive? Senator Zaga.
So when I saw this proposed legislation last semester, I immediately was in favor of it. But with the added changes, and especially that amendment we saw tonight, I'm even more in favor of it. So I'm in marketing and sales, and especially within a marketing major, it's extremely difficult to find undergraduate experience and exposure to hands-on marketing opportunities. But I'm fortunate enough to be able to have a marketing internship this summer
this semester with BHS Construction, but there are so many marketing students that struggle to find those experiences. In fact, when I interviewed with BHS Construction, they asked me to bring my portfolio, which I didn't have, so I scraped together a couple of projects from my time as VP of Public Relations for Silver Key, and I designed a couple new logos for my dad's business just to try to beef up my portfolio a little bit. So I walked into that interview feeling like I wasn't representing my actual skill level enough because I haven't had those experiences, but thankfully they saw the potential in the little work that I was able to showcase, and I got the position. This internship serves as my first real marketing position, and it is 100% setting me up for success post-grad. I think that because we are promoting Next Gen K-State so much, it only makes sense to help create new opportunities for students to get experience and practice within their field. The communications agency would do exactly that. We would open up a new opportunity for students to create a real portfolio and to showcase their talents to employers so they don't have to scramble to find projects for their portfolios that may not be a true representation of their abilities or skills. And it's not just portfolios, it's also resumes. Being able to add an experience such as serving within a communications agency is something that would set these students apart from other applicants. Those within the communications agency would get that valuable experience and gain a new perspective to build upon other experiences they may have already had. Marketing is such a hands-on field that you really can't master in the classroom. I know last week or the week before, College of Engineering students have recently expressed that desire for applied learning and extracurricular experience, and I feel that the College of Business would benefit from that as well. There's an explicit need for people in majors like marketing and communications to gain more co-curricular experiences. Talents and skills are formed off of the basis of classroom knowledge, but they are truly developed and strengthened to their fullest capacity in a hands-on learning environment, like an internship, an elected club position, or organizations exactly like the communications agency. My time at my current internship has taught me so much. I've honestly learned more in the past 2 months at BHS Construction than I've learned my entire time at K-State. I'm not lying when I say that. I've learned new softwares, techniques, and industry knowledge in both marketing and construction that will absolutely add to my marketability as an applicant to a post-grad job. Immersion into the field is truly the best way to learn, and we need to set our students up to get that experience before they graduate college. Equipping students with the confidence to walk into a job interview with the knowledge and skills they have accumulated from various hands-on experiences is the best thing that we as SGA can promote to ensure that K-State students are successful after graduating. And the way we can jumpstart that tonight is by understanding the need to streamline communications for SGA as a whole, build new opportunities on campus, and support student success. Those that do not have any background in marketing or communications truly don't realize the time and effort required for quality branding and marketing strategy for a larger organization like SGA, which is why a communications agency is vital to keep students informed well. A vote in favor of the communications agency and communications director, but that's a later discussion, is a vote to equip students with industry-specific experience.
Speaker's time has expired.
Can I have like 5 more seconds, anybody? Yes, you can.
Senator Glanville.
I move to extend debaters' time by 2 minutes. Second.
Is there an objection? The speaker's time is extended.
Thank you so much for 2 minutes. That's more than I need. I'm going to repeat my last sentence. A vote in favor of the communications agency and communications director is a vote to equip students with industry-specific experience and set them up for successful careers. So please vote yes to both.
Okay, seeing as that was debate in the positive, is there debate in the negative? Senator Shirkey.
Speaker, I got a question for you. How many vacancies we have in Senate right now?
I think we have 12.
So we have 12 vacancies in the Senate. I doubt we will be able to fully and effectively staff this agency, but the executive branch has its ways. Let's assume that we get the communications agency all set up. Kind of defeats the purpose of the bill as it was originally introduced. The whole shtick was, all right, we're going to combine these agencies in order to make everything more efficient. Cool, now we got like 15 people instead of 2. Because we have, you know, a committee and then this weird subcommittee, which, by the way, is going to disband after a month because they're only meeting as needed. I don't believe that this legislation provides the gain in efficiency that we would hope it does. And so I would oppose it on that grounds.
Okay, since that is debate in the negative, is there debate in the positive? Senator Griffith.
Is the previous question in order?
It is not. We will need one more speech or one more opportunity for a speech for each side. Senator Glanville.
Hello, everybody. While I am not a marketing major, I'm an engineering major. I do have experience in the field of communications, coming from my previous 6 years in my middle school to high school years on the Chase County Junior Senior High School yearbook and marketing staff. Being an editor within said organization proved difficult. Without support, would not have been even remotely possible doing our newspaper, our yearbook, our website, and other communications for our district as needed. If it was just solely me alone, nothing would have gotten done. And can be quite closely correlated to this situation that we are putting our independent position as it stands in now. Think of taking the max course load and then adding 40 different organizations on top of it that you're a part of. This is the situation that we're putting one person on campus in, but by having a support group set up as said agency, things are able to get dispersed. I am 100% confident that whoever is put into this position would be able to effectively put out and task our communications. How are we supposed to be able to get out and be able to connect with our organizations on campus that we are supposed to be representing if we cannot effectively communicate with them, in which right now our communication efforts are, I wouldn't say lackluster, but are definitely lacking because we have put such a strenuous task on one person instead of being able to have a team that can play to their strengths and be able to connect us with the right people and get our word out. Thank you.
Seeing as that was a speech in the positive, is there a speech in the negative? Are there any further speeches at all? Senator Talbert.
I move to both roll call bills 1 and 2.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved, seconded, and objected, and I'm going to briefly explain what that means. So a bulk roll call means that when we vote by a roll call vote, Pro Tem Heseltine will collect your votes for both bills at the same time, so we do not have to go through 2 separate roll calls. We'll just go through one for both bills, and you can either vote yes to one and no to the other, or yes or no to all. Does anybody have any questions about what that means?
Yeah.
Senator Hanna.
If I liked Bill 1 but didn't like Bill 2, for instance, I could say yes, no, and...
Correct. You could say yes to Bill 1 and no to Bill 2. Yes. Any further questions? Senator Griffith.
Is this a debatable motion?
I don't think it is. No, it is not. Senator Griffith.
I move to suspend the rules and allow debate on the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
That's not suspendable. You can't suspend the rules on that either.
Okay. We will now go into a hand vote on the motion to bulk roll call. Those in favor of bulk roll calling, please raise your placards now. Proxies raised 2. Okay. Both bills will be bulk roll call. Seeing as how we were just debating Bill 1 and there were no further speeches, does anybody have any positive debate on Bill 2? Senator Griffith.
Mr. Speaker, I have an amendment.
Senator George, did you have debate on Bill 1? Did you have debate?
It's Bill 2.
He had his placard raised on Bill 1.
Yes, I want to have a positive contributions to the contributions.
Bill 1 or 2?
For the bill on the communications
Bill 1.
That is
You
Bill
still
1,
had
yeah.
debate on Bill 1 before you closed it. You didn't see his placard.
Okay. So before we entertain Senator Griffith's motion, Senator George, you want to come and speak on the positive on Bill 1?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for recognizing me. On the issue of communications about SGA, inclusion of students about SGA, I think one of the most important things we need to do in this house is each senators have this responsibility and they have a crucial role to play. I feel like probably after each meetings, after each debates, I feel like people we are representing, I'm sure each and every one of us, we have people we are representing and we have constituency we are representing. They deserve to know what we debate here. Like they deserve to hear, they deserve communicate. Like probably after each meetings, let us communicate probably all discussions that is gonna help students to every one of them. For example, if you are from the College of Engineering, at least let people from the College of Engineering, let them know the developments, let them know what we spoke about at the house, so that they can be carried along. Because I feel like most students don't know about SGA because they don't know what we do here. They don't know what SGA is all about. And the best thing for them to know what LGA is all about is when they see communicate. For example, I feel like at the end of each meeting, probably the speaker tempo should give communicate about each meetings. With that, each and every one of us can pick somebody something to write and to talk about to people we represent, because people we represent, they deserve a feedback mechanism. In anything we do, when there is no feedback mechanism, there is no way people will be included in SG. I feel like these people, they deserve a feedback mechanism. That's my contribution. Thank you.
Okay, seeing as that was debate in the positive, is there debate in the negative? Okay. Since the motion to vote roll call passed, we will now go into debate on Bill 2. Senator Griffith.
Mr. Speaker, I have an amendment.
Okay, come read the amendment.
Okay, so this makes 3 changes. It removes the communications director from exec, adds them back to DEIB, and renumerates section 5 as section 5, as it was previously section 3 for some reason.
Are there any questions for the author? Senator Sago.
What was the motivation for placing that position on the DEIB committee? I'm confused about that part.
This is, the communications director already served on that. Diversity should be a major aspect of SGA communications, especially in this day and age. And I also thought the logic for removing them from DIB was suspect at best. So that is why I amended it to keep them on DIB.
Follow-up?
Granted.
Have you considered rather having them as an additional member to DEIB as well as executive? I don't know if, I feel like taking them out of cabinet is kind of.
What this does is that this doesn't change them being a cabinet position. This just takes them out of exec and keeps them in DEIB.
Oh, okay. I follow.
Senator Shirky.
Point of information. Could we propose a friendly amendment and vote on that right now, whether we should have them in exec or not?
No.
Senator Tolbert.
Oh, wait, so just clarifying, is this taking them out of Senate exec, your amendment?
The bill, unamended, keeps them in exec. This bill removes that. This bill, unamended, remove them from DEIB. This bill returns them. The reason I wanted to remove them from Senate Exec is because under this system, they're just a cabinet member. They aren't special. Sure, they run their own little agency, but so does the legislative director. So do many other cabinet positions. As such, I don't believe that there is a significant enough reason to put them on exec.
Senator Lee.
Wait, so would they be like not like ex officio members serving on the DIB committee? Or maybe I'm misunderstanding what your amendment is.
The communications director will be removed from Senate Exec, but the new cabinet position of the communications director will remain on DEIB. Those are the two changes, and then Section 5 is fixed to be Section 5.
They will be an ex officio member of DEIB.
Because that's how it currently is.
Yeah.
Senator Black.
So can they, I'm confused, can they, if they're left on exec, can they not be a part of DEIB?
What? No. No, there is not, they could be on both committees.
Why do we have to remove them from exec to keep them on DEIB?
We don't have to. This is doing two things. They are separate, in separate sections. I don't believe they should be on exec because under this bill, they are just a normal, everyday cabinet position. They are not an independent position. I am keeping them. It is also amended to keep them on DEIB because I do not believe that the logic that the authors provided for removing them from DEIB has standing, at least in my opinion. So that is why this amendment exists. There is nothing about them being on exec that would prevent them from being on DEIB. I just don't believe they should be on exec.
So why? Why shouldn't they be on exec?
We're going to leave that for debate.
Okay.
Senator Glanville.
Would it not be more beneficial to have them hear from all three branch heads staying in exec?
The other bill has the communications agency and the oversight bill that effectively does this. As well as we don't need oversight from the other two branches for, say, the legislative director's little committee, which I'm blanking on the name. So they're under the current standing of the bill too. They are a cabinet position. They are not held to a higher standard. They are just a normal cabinet position. As such, I do not believe they should be on exec.
Senator Koch.
How do you expect the communications director to get insight on what legislative and judicial branches are doing if they are not actively involved in Senate exec and hearing those committee updates whenever they're needed?
It will be the communications director's prerogative to meet with the heads of that branch. It will be their responsibility to receive those messaging.
Senator Dybelbis.
So for those of us who are unfamiliar like myself with the cabinet very much, what's the difference between a normal cabinet and whatever the other kind of cabinet?
Currently, as it stands, the only member of the cabinet that is on any committee is the chief of staff on the Strategic Oversight Committee. None of the other cabinet officials, none of the directors are on Senate standing committees. This changes the communications director to be a member of the cabinet. As such, I do not believe they should be on exec. However, I do believe that we should break that for DEIB because I still think it is necessary for diversity to be included in our discussions.
Senator Tolbert.
Point of information, is there cabinet members that are on standing committees? Like multicultural affairs?
There is at least one. I don't know them off the top of my head. Senator Zago.
I'm not as familiar with the executive committee, but I'm under the impression that they would kind of discuss the goings on of their branch within executive committee. So that would include DEIB in that discussion. So I guess what's your reasoning for not saying exec as a whole? Because as a communications agency, we should be informed about all of SGA instead of just DEIB, I guess.
Time for questions has expired.
Senator Shirky.
Move to extend 1 minute so they can answer that.
Is there an objection? The speaker's questioning time is extended.
So you're asking, okay, I'm sorry, I'm confused as to what you're asking.
So the executive committee, it's my understanding that the members of that would kind of give unofficial reports to each other about everything that's going on, which would include the chair of the DEIB committee. So they would be included in that discussion on the exec committee already.
Yes, I still think that they should be at the meetings of the DIB committee. Just because even if they were on exec and could hear reports from that doesn't mean that they shouldn't be able to hear directly from the source, from the committee itself, and not just have to rely on second-party information delivered by, well, I guess first-party information, but information delivered by the chair. They should remain on DEIB.
Senator Hanna.
Yeah, so what information do you feel the communications director would be getting by sitting in on DEIB rather than hearing the DEIB's chair?
Time for questions has expired.
Senator Koch.
I move to extend time for questions by 5 minutes.
Second.
Objection.
It's been moved, seconded, and objected to extend time for questioning. Those in favor of extending the time, please raise your placards now. Proxies raised 2. Okay, that motion does fail. This questioning time will not be extended. With that, does somebody have a second to considering the amendment? Okay, so we will now go into debate on the amendment. The author has first rights to debate.
Okay, so let me just reiterate. The reason I do not believe the communications director in its current state in the bill should serve on exec because they are a normal cabinet official. They are a cabinet member. They would be the only one on exec that isn't the chief of staff, and they're considered, at least I consider them separate. But they should remain on DEIB because we should, as a student body, I mean, look amongst us. We are almost majority white. The issues that are being presented to our community, my community, and communities of many other people here would go unrepresented if they didn't appear on that. And I feel that the author's argument as to why they shouldn't be on DEIB, being that they could just receive the report from the executive committee, I do not believe holds water, and I believe that they should remain on DEIB. So I urge you to vote in favor of the amendment.
Okay, seeing as that was debate in the positive on the amendment, I'm looking for debate in the negative. Senator Tolbert.
Yeah, I don't think this amendment's necessary. If you look at like the historical context of why the communication structure was on DEIB, you can go look at our governing documents, because in the governing documents, it kind of outlines an outdated idea that the communications director, not the communications director, but the DEIB committee was supposed to do recruitment and outreach events like tabling and such. They don't do that. They also don't do recruitment for our organization that usually lays now upon the what is it called? The intern program now? But the Emerging Leaders program. So it's really outdated, but that was the reason why the communications director was on that, was because DEIB used to do a lot of recruitment and retention and tabling and things that, seem very communications-like. I think that the issues can be brought up in Senate exec. I don't know why we would be taking them out of the committee that is, regularly meeting to discuss the issues that are facing all the branches. While at the same time, if the communications director wants to attend DEIB committees, they can if they want to. But I don't think it's necessarily necessary, because the point of the communications director being on DEIB doesn't really happen anymore. So for that reason, I'd vote against this amendment.
Okay, seeing as that was a speech in the negative, is there a speech in the positive on the amendment? Are there any further speeches at all? Okay, with that, we will go into a hand vote on whether or not the amendment should be added to Bill 2. All those in favor of adding the amendment to Bill 2, please raise your placards now. Proxies raised 2. Okay, all those opposed, raise your placards now. Proxies raised 2. Okay, the amendment will fail. And we will go back into debate on Bill 2. I am now looking for a speech in the negative on Bill 2. Okay, I'm now looking for a speech in the positive on Bill 2. Senator Glanville.
I defer my speaking rights to outgoing Communications Director Riley Clay.
Okay, I promise to keep this short, sweet, and to the point because I know that there's some of us that are starting to get restless in the room. I think that this bill needs to go through because sitting in this position, kind of struggling to prioritize communications, what needed to be done, sitting there having questions, not really knowing exactly who to go to, struggling with the PR director on cabinet, knowing who was supposed to handle what, and just the different issues that as the communications director I saw last term. This bill helps solve a lot of that, and especially if you are considering voting yes for the communications agency side of things, I really urge you to consider voting yes for this because this also provides support up the chain in SGA for the communications director if you are wanting them to lead a committee and support downwards, and just different ways of support. Like I know in my first, I think it was about week of being sworn in as the communications director, we kind of had a para-crisis situation on our hands when there was kind of a controversial vote on who one of the committee chairs was going to be last term, and trying to figure out who to contact on how to handle that situation on our social media was very hard being an independent position. But luckily I had a good enough relationship with the president or the previous president because I graduated high school with him. He kind of was able to walk me through how to handle that situation and be a person that could back me up in what my decision was. So I urge you to vote yes for both of these just because it helps our communication, and we don't want a whole bunch of different information going out from multiple different people. We don't want to confuse the student body, and I know that there's been complaints from the student body, especially since towards the end of our term, or the last term, beginning of this one, about transparency of our organization. And so having multiple people working on our communications, and then looking up to the communications director, that can help with our transparency issue, because also our student body does have the right to understand what's going on in KSU SGA. Thank you.
Seeing as that was debate in the positive, on Bill 2 is there debate in the negative? Senator Griffith.
One of the main arguments that previous speakers have had on both bills is that currently by having a PR director and the communications director, the independent position, is that this is a case of too many cooks in the kitchen. I wholeheartedly disagree. I believe that this, especially if you vote in favor of Bill 1, can be a case of many hands making light work. I don't believe that there is a significant enough problem with having both a communications director and a PR director to get rid of one and replace it with the other. I also believe that sure, it may be difficult to have 3 different bosses, but I don't think that that should be, again, a point against the position. I believe that a communications director fully involved in it would be able to certainly solve it. Now, I do not blame the previous speaker for this because, trust me, 18 credit hours is a lot. Once I was taking 21 credit hours initially. Not fun. But I understand. But ultimately, I believe that by having both positions, by having them be separate, you're able to still have consistent communication without having, in my opinion, too significant executive overreach into the messaging of KSU SGA, of which, at the moment, I currently believe it is. And so I urge you to vote yes on Bill 1, but to vote down Bill 2.
Okay, seeing as that was speech in the negative, is there speech in the positive? Senator Shirkey.
I urge the body to vote down Bill 1 and support Bill 2. The reason being just to simply increase the efficiency of our communication system. We won't have to deal with the large agency. That's all.
Seeing as that was debate in the negative, is there debate in the positive? Senator Tolbert.
I just have a point of information. I have a question. Isn't the agency though specifically referred to as like the leader of it will be the newly
Yes,
formed?
section 5, we can amend that if that's how it.
But I was just making clear that we would have to then amend more in order to do something like that.
Yes, there'd be one line that would be
Correct.
moved up and built in.
Okay. Seeing as that was speech in the positive, I'm now looking for speech in the negative. No. Is there any further debate at all? Okay. Oh, Senator Sago. Is this positive or negative?
Positive. It's going to be really fast, though. I think the communications director, I mean, we heard from someone who has experience in that previous position, and she is telling you that it needs to be consolidated into one. She is the only person who has experience in that position, and she is explicitly telling everyone that is what would be best for that, I guess, those two positions to be merged. To talk about approving the agency but not the director, I think is just kind of foolish. The whole purpose of the agency is to aid in the communications director's efforts because, as she said, it is a lot of work. And in any marketing or communications experience, even in my internship, in my VP of PR for Silver Key, it's so much more work than someone who hasn't done it realizes. There's a lot that goes into a simple Instagram post. Analytics, editing, caption writing, you have to get it approved by multiple people to be able to ensure you're putting out quality content. And that can't all fall on one person. We talk so much about needing checks and balances. That agency would be that backup. They would, produce content, which would then get approved or edited or looked at by other members of the agency or the director. I think that's exactly what communications within our organization needs. So I would encourage you to vote in favor of the communications director and communications agency.
Seeing as that was a speech in the positive, we're now looking for speeches in the negative. Are there any? Oh, Senator Blood.
Last term, I was in favor of both of these, right? I think on the surface, it makes a lot of sense, right? Who doesn't want to streamline an org chart, improve efficiency on that way, right? Remove someone having 3 bosses. Who doesn't want to give people a title so that they can conduct more work and we can delegate and create more groups for work to get done? It sounds and it feels really good. However, as this is continued to go on and be discussed, I think there's a number of just challenges, right? I've already discussed my objection to us voting on this tonight, and I think as we've continued to ask more and more questions throughout tonight, we've seen why that is a challenge and why we have a 2-week process and committee process. And so for one, I think there's a very strong argument to be made of referring this or postponing this a little bit farther down the line and allowing some people to work it out, even if that might complicate things for everyone who's trying to become a cabinet director. Complication is part of the process, unfortunately. We have to get things right when we do it, and I don't think we're at that point yet. Why? I don't think we're at that point yet. Well, we're still very divided on which direction to go. 2, I think there's a lot of value in an independent person being in charge of the communications, right? Each branch has different needs, and while that does require potentially 3 bosses, I think the nice part is the communications director kind of gets to decide at times which ones to listen to and what's best for the health of the organization overall. That's their job there. And what communications really go out. Communication agency is nice, but there's nothing stopping the communications director from adding people to help them and enlisting people to help them anyway without it being formalized. If there was really this need and this demand to want to be there for SGA to fill those positions, instead of hardlining it and saying this has to happen, and arguably one could say create more work for potential communications directors. And then finally, I wanted to kind of address the challenges between the communications director and the public relations director, and having two positions, right? I think it goes back to that same efficiency argument from before. It looks, feels, sounds nice, but what's that really in practice? Well, as I've kind of mentioned, having an independent position allows someone to be impartial, right? They get to make those decisions. They get to look at the health of the organization as a whole. But we are a political body, and different groups have specific political needs. The legislative branch has their political wishes, the executive branch has their political wishes, and even at times the judicial branch has some political wishes of their own. And with that being said, the public relations director gets to be there to help fulfill the political wishes of the executive branch. Now, while the public relations director didn't do this last year, there was a press release just from the executive branch last year for a content piece that was just the political wishes of the executive branch. Should that go out as all of SGA communications really promoting what the full body is doing? Or is that really more the opinion of one branch within SGA and not the entire organization? So for that, I urge you to vote no right now. Leave the status quo as it is. Allow the communications director to be independent and be able to make those decisions, what's best for our entire organization, and allow them to enlist people if they want for them to help, but don't, formalize it and kind of add more potential work to someone who decides to fill the position if they don't want to.
Okay, seeing as that was debate in the negative, I am now looking for debate in the positive. Senator Lee.
Mr. Speaker, I defer my speaking rights to incoming Attorney General tomorrow.
Senator Jarnack, do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question of privilege.
State the question.
So, I'm sorry, I'm just having a little bit of trouble understanding. Can you explain why, and please tell me if this is out of order, why we can have like an agency, but why it has to be an exec and why it's not independent? Because that's part of the bill that we're changing, is that why?
I don't know if I can necessarily speak to the author's intent, but I think the reason that they want to house it in the executive branch is because they think it is more forward-facing or more outward-facing, and want maybe more purview over it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
Okay. Incoming Attorney General Navarro.
Cool, guys. Just got off interview, so bear with me if I'm a little frazzled. So first, I just want to state kind of the judicial branch's perspective on this. Communications really isn't a thing that the judicial branch really does a lot of stuff with. I mean, let's say if we have a new initiative, that would be communicated, applications, that would be communicated. But outside of this, I think that the judicial branch, in terms of how we feel about our sovereignty with appointing this position, we are completely fine with this being housed under the executive branch. Now, obviously, that's the opinion no one asked for. So I do want to say that having a communications director position, having it centralized within the executive branch, would make this position more accountable. I'm not sure if this has already been kind of spoken outwardly or not, but I think that that is important because having three bosses is, I would say, less efficient than having one. And I think we need to point to maybe a bigger issue that may be occurring, if this communications director position is used as leverage for power for the executive branch. Because if we are in fear of that, to be perfectly honest, if the leadership here, Carson, can't refer to you, sorry, my bad. If that guy over there, if he ends up having an issue because the legislative body is not being represented within communications, he will voice that with our student body president. If our student body president were to reject that plea, we have much bigger issues in terms of our interbranch collaboration than communications. I think we need to recognize that and maybe put a little bit of trust into that relationship rather than believing that we are three separate bodies within one organization. Instead thinking we're all a big happy family, guys. So yeah, that's my opinion on it. Urge you to vote yes, not a senator. Thank you guys. Thank you, Andrew. Or not,
That is out of order. Okay, so that was a speech in the positive. We're now looking for a speech in the negative. Senator Saya.
Is previous question in order?
It is not. We either need to call for a negative speech one more time, or somebody has to give a negative speech. With that, is there any speakers in the negative? Okay, are there any speeches at all? Okay. We will now go into voting, a bulk vote on both bills 1 and 2. Just as a reminder, you can vote yes to all, no to all, or yes to one and no to the other. So Speaker Pro Tem Heseltine will take that vote now.
Okay. Alvarez. Biggs.
Yes to all.
Black.
Yes to all.
Brugan.
Yes to all.
Blood.
No to all.
Colgren.
Yes to all.
Koch.
Yes to both.
Divil-Bliss.
Yes to both.
Ediger.
No to both by proxy.
George.
Yes to all.
Geifer.
No to both.
Glanville.
Yes to both.
Glasscock.
Yes to both.
Griffith.
Yes to 1, no to 2.
Haynes. Hannah.
No to both.
Hoffmans.
No to both. Oh, no to both by proxy.
Hoffman. Was that Hoffman or Hoffman?
Hoffman.
Okay. That's okay. Okay. Holmes.
Yes to both.
Wait, question.
What's Hoffman?
Did you do Hoffman and Hoffman's?
Yeah.
Okay, Hoffman's is yes to both.
Okay, okay.
He has not been sworn in.
He has.
He has.
When?
Yeah. Earlier today. The oath of office does not have to be done in front of the chamber.
There's video proof. if anyone's very-
Okay. Holzmeister.
Yes to both.
Islam. Jacobson. Jonak.
No to all.
Carton.
Yes to both.
Keen.
Yes to both.
Kidd.
Yes to both.
Kermer.
Yes to both by proxy.
Lee.
Yes to both.
Lilly.
No to both.
McCulloch.
Yes to both.
Moore.
Yes to both.
Otto.
Yes to all.
Peterson.
Yes to all.
Palenko.
Yes to both.
Prey.
No to 1 and yes to 2 by proxy.
Robbie.
Yes to all.
Rice. Richenberg.
Yes to all.
Rizzo.
No and no.
Saya.
No to both.
Shavasari.
Yes to both.
Shirky.
No to 1, yes to 2.
Shrivastava,
Yes to all.
Stewart,
Yes to both.
Strunk,
No to both.
Sushanik,
No to both.
Talbert,
Yes to both.
Vogel, Vogelmore,
Is that Parker?
yes.
Yes, all by proxy.
Wolf,
No to both by proxy.
Zacko.
Yes to both.
That, both of those will fail on a vote of the first one, 31 to 14 to 0, the second one, 32 to 13 to 0.
The reason for that is because, as I explained earlier, amendments to the bylaws require 2/3 of all senators selected and qualified, which means sworn in. So even if they are not here, their vote still, in essence, goes against the bill. So now that those two bills have failed, we will go into second open period. Are there any second open period speakers? Senator Peterson.
All right, I'll keep it short. So I'm part of Ag Council, and we're doing an Ag Fest week next week. I know it kind of interferes with Greek week if you're in a Greek house. But Monday, 5:30 to 7:30, we are doing a pancake feed. It's free. Then Friday, one of the bigger ones is a hamburger meal on Friday for $5 from 5:30 to 7:30 in front of Waters Hall. So yeah, planning to see you guys there.
Are there any questions for the speaker? Senator Rizzo.
Can you make this PDF available to all of us?
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Are there any further questions? Okay. Are there any further second open period speakers? Senator Lee.
Hello. Hi. So recently I met with Shelly Williams, who runs Cat's Cupboard, and she shared some pretty cool information that I think you guys should all take into account. If you all really care about food insecurity in Cat's Cupboard, I think you really like this. And so basically, great news for shoppers of West Loop Dillons and supporters of Cat's Cupboard. So now if you have I think if you have a rewards card for Dillons, which you should, you save so much money. So many deals, I will say, that I never thought about until I became an adult and started buying my own groceries. But basically, the instructions, you go to your Dillons account on the app, basically go to your account, go to Community Rewards, and add Cat's Cupboard on. And so basically, whenever you purchase items, using your rewards card, a part or portion of your purchase will go directly to Cat's Cupboard. So it's a great way to support your community. It's a great way to support Cat's Cupboard. It's a great way to support other students. So yeah, please sign up for this.
Are there any questions? Senator Holmes.
Are they going to be doing anything with the East Side Dillons, or do you know if there will be?
I don't think so. I think it's really odd they only have on the West Loop Dillons for now. Maybe in the future they might, and if they do, I'll let y'all know if they have the East Side. So the West Side the West Side one's cool too. So yeah.
Are there any further questions? Senator Diovis.
Was that an independent endorsement of Dillon's?
Oh, yes. It's my own personal purview that I love Dillon's. So, yes. Yes, not Cat's Cupboard sponsored.
Are there any further questions? Okay. Do we have any further second open period speakers? Senator Koch.
Do you have something I'm supposed to share?
No.
Wonderful.
Making Brian's job easy, guys. We love it. I have more info on Wildcat Pause Day, and as that's going into Faculty Senate. So it is getting introduced and being discussed in Faculty Senate next Tuesday, April 9th at 3:30. You can go in the Big 12 room, which is in the Union, or there's a Zoom link, and I can send that out.
Then it will be sent back to Academic Affairs Committee for review, discussion, and endorsement consideration the Tuesday after that on April 16th at 3:30, and that is going to be on Zoom. And then it'll be sent back to Faculty Senate again for review, discussion, and endorsement consideration in May 14th. That's 3:15 because that's like their turnover Senate because they're just behind the times. That's also going to be in the Big 12 room or Zoom. So if you guys have any questions or want to come along, I'm planning on coming. I believe our president and vice president are also planning on coming. Let me know, and if you have any questions, ask me now, text me, I don't care.
Senator Griffith.
Could you repeat the dates and put them in the group meeting?
Just sent.
Are there any further questions? Senator Zago.
Just to clarify, that day would be in the fall, and would that day be taken from fall break, or where would that come from?
Okay, I should probably give a little background. So we are looking at creating a day off, and we're thinking about putting that on the Friday of academics 7, 8, or 9. And because the way our schedule works is we have 2 like buffer days with like what KBOR requires versus what we have scheduled. And so we're planning on actually taking one of those buffer days and putting that that day off and putting that just in the semester itself. So it shouldn't impact fall break.
Are there any further questions? Okay. Are there any further second open period speakers? Senator Griffith.
I'm back to the Senate, and that means Board Game Club is back to the Senate 7 to 10 tomorrow, Union Room 206. But also, if you are free for open house, then come to Hale Library from 9 to 2, where the Board Game Club is collaborating with Hale Library for the open house to basically just come, play a bunch of board games with prospective students, and tell them, and hey, I'm just saying this is a good time to goat about the Student Governing Association. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none. Are there any further second open period speakers? Okay, with that, Speaker Pro Tem Heseltine will take it away with Senate shoutouts.
Shout out to Brandon for not being on Zoom and finally getting a full night of sleep in Italy. Shout out to the Thai peanut pizza they have at the Kramer Dining Center. It is to die for, literally, if you have a peanut allergy. Shout out to Brian Blood's Parley Chair. Shout out to Justice Kamen for his award-winning Steve Jobs cosplay. Shout out to Senator Biggs for showing up on time. Shout out to Justice Jeremy Kamen for shout out to the Justice Jeremy Kamen show for the second time in 2 weeks. We love you. Shout out to Brandon for getting caucus leader without even showing up. Now that's what I call influence. Shout out to questions out of order. Shout out to not saying all opposed, same sign. It definitely was a waste of time. Shout out to Bling Bling from Bentley's amendment email. Shout out to the first meeting. I'm taking minutes of being quite chaotic. I did not submit that, so I don't know who sent that. Shout out to Speaker Cuesta. I met that guy over there. And then it says to point 2. Shout out to adulting. We all know it's overrated. Shout out to Senator Koch for answering all my silly, goofy questions, comments, and concerns. And that's it.
Okay, there's no reference of legislation, so Speaker Pro Tem Heseltine will take it away with our second roll call.
Awesome. Okay, Biggs.
Still here.
Black.
Here.
Blood.
Here.
Brugan.
Here.
Carlgren.
Here.
Koch.
Here.
Dybel Bliss.
Here.
Ediger. George. Giefer.
Here.
Glanville.
Here.
Glasscock.
Here.
Griffith.
Here.
Haynes. Hannah.
Here.
Hoffman's. Hoffman, Holmes, Holtzmeister, Islam, Jacobson, Jonak, Carton,
Yeah.
Keen,
Here.
Kidd,
Here.
Kermer, Lee, Lilly,
Here.
McCulloch, Moore,
Here.
Otto,
Here.
Peterson,
What's up?
Palenko, Robbie,
Here.
Rice, Richenberg,
Here.
Rizzo,
Here.
Saya,
Here.
Shasavari,
Here.
Shirky,
Here.
Shrivastava,
Here.
Stewart,
Here.
Strunk,
Here.
Shushanik,
Here.
Talbert, and Vogel.
Okay.
Hold on, I missed like 3. Is Zacho, are you here?
Yep.
Okay, with that, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Senator Strong.
Second.
Senator Strong.
I move to adjourn this meeting until Thursday, April 11th.
Is there an objection? We stand adjourned.
Yes. No, you're fine. We should. We looked at it. You know, my question is, from our child.
I was behind. I was